What's going on, guys? Today we're going to be exploring one of the modes here in the 2020 Ford F-150, and that is the EcoMode. So as you might know, the F-150s now have different selectable modes such as normal, tow haul, snow/wet, EcoMode, and sport mode. And so we're going to look here at the EcoMode in the quick reference guide provided with the owner's manual, and it says here that the Eco Select mode offers the best possible fuel economy with trade-offs in vehicle performance and comfort. So what that means to me is that we should see a better mile per gallon rating for a select trip, but what I don't understand is how comfort is sacrificed, so we'll try to see what that means. I can't really find too much as to how the Eco Select mode works, but I did find some forums where some people believe that the Eco mode won't really benefit for highway driving. However, it might benefit for city driving, but I beg to differ. I think you'll see a better improvement in MPG on highway using Eco mode versus driving in the city. So we're going to test that today. Right now I'm sitting here at a gas station where I've pumped the truck full of gas. I got a full gas tank, and what we're going to do is we're going to drive to a nearby city. Right now we are off the highway of Highway 90 here in San Antonio, Texas, and we're going to drive to Castroville, Texas. I believe it's like a 22-minute drive. And so basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump on the highway here. I'm going to put the truck into cruise control under normal conditions, and we're just going to ride it out. And then from there, we're going to stop somewhere, we're going to turn around, we're going to come back to this gas station, I'm going to fill up the truck again, and then what we're going to do is switch into Eco mode, and I'm going to do the same exact thing, jump on the highway, put it into cruise control, and when we get to our destination, we'll compare normal MPG to Eco Select MPG and see if we were able to get any better or worse results. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go downtown here in San Antonio, Texas, and we're going to also compare normal to Eco Select mode, and we're going to see if we can get better MPG or not in the city. So we're going to compare the two, but for now what we're going to do is we're going to drive to Castroville, Texas, and we're going to see if we get any better MPG under normal conditions or eco conditions. All right, so as you can see, I got the truck fired up here. We've got a full tank of gas. We're going to use trip 2 here to use as our data gatherer, if you will. So we reset it here, and we're going to use this as our reference point to see what our MPG is. All right, so we're pulling out of the gas station here. We're gonna do the turnaround. So right now we're under normal conditions. All right, so now we're jumping onto the highway here. We're gonna go ahead and put it into cruise control now. We're gonna set the speed at, I believe the speed limit here is 65 miles per hour, so that's what we're gonna set it at right now. And we're just gonna sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride. All right, so now the speed limit is going up to 70 miles per hour. We're gonna bump it up to 70. We have been on the highway now for about 7 minutes. We've traveled a distance of about 5.5 miles. Our average MPG right now under normal driving mode is 19.9 miles per gallon. 20 now, so pretty good. So I think at this point we're just gonna kind of ride it out, and I'll tune back in once we get to Castroville. All right, we're slowing down to 60 miles per hour here. I think we're getting into Castroville, Texas. We've traveled about 16 miles. Right now we're averaging 22.4 miles per gallon, and so not bad. However, this is a pretty level elevation. As you can see, there's not much change in elevation, so that's probably what helps contribute to the high MPG that we're seeing here under normal mode. See another speed limit sign coming up, and we're dropping down to 55 miles per hour. And we have now entered Castroville city limit, dropping down to 45. All right, so I see a pretty decent destination to stop up here up ahead. I don't want our stop and go from being here in the city to kind of affect the results, so I'm just going to pull over here into this grocery store, and then we're going to take a picture of the results, and then we're going to turn around and go back and do it all over again. Right now we're sitting at 23.2 miles per gallon average. All right, firing up the truck again. You can see here, trip 2, 23 miles per gallon averaging, 17.6 miles, time elapsed about 18 minutes, 19 minutes. So now let's make our way back. All right, so we're heading back here. We're almost about to exit to go back to the gas station. I can see right now that we've traveled 33.5 miles. We've been traveling for about 35 minutes. And the average MPG is 22.8 miles per gallon. I'm gonna go ahead and try to get you guys a shot before I exit, since the stopping kind of once we get off seems to alter the results very quickly. So right before we exit, or right as soon as we exit, I'm gonna go ahead and try to get you guys a shot of the current data that we have. Here we go, we're exiting right now, and it actually went up to 23 miles per gallon, 23.1. It's probably because we're slowing down. Okay, so you guys see that we still averaged around 23 miles per gallon round trip under normal conditions. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to fill up the truck, and I'm going to see how much gas that we wasted, and I'm going to compare that to the amount of distance that we traveled to get another estimate of miles per gallon rather than using the one that the truck gives us. I'm assuming it's going to probably be pretty identical, but we're going to see just to compare the two, just to see if they're any different or not. Then what we're going to do is we're going to do the same exact thing, but we're going to do it in eco mode. All right, so we filled up now. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to reset trip number 2 again here. I'm holding the button, we're resetting. And now what we're gonna do is we're gonna hit the different drive mode. We're gonna put it into eco here. All right, just so you can see, we're gonna do it again. So you can see here the different drive modes. We're gonna put it in normal. We'll go ahead and reset it again, right there. Reset, and we're going to put it into eco mode. Okay, we're gonna leave it there, and we're gonna come back and see how much we get. All right, so right off the bat, I don't really feel a big difference in the throttle response. Maybe a little bit, but not, maybe a little bit suppressed, I should say, but it still kind of feels the same here. All right, so we are on the highway now. Gonna put it on cruise control, put it at 65 miles per hour. And again, just like before, we're gonna ride it out. And once we get to 70 miles per hour here, we're gonna jump up, and as soon as we get into Castroville, we're gonna jump back down to 45 at the same location that we stopped at. We're gonna turn around. I'll get a shot before we get there so you guys can see if there's a difference in the average MPG, and then we'll come back and see what the round trip was. All right, so we're gonna bump up here to about 70 miles per hour. We've traveled 5.4 miles. We're already averaging at 20.7 miles per gallon, and we've been on the highway for about 6 minutes now. All right, so we're getting kind of near our destination here, and we've already surpassed the average MPG that we made last time. Right now we're sitting at 23.8, almost getting near 24 miles per gallon. I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to actually do the turnaround. So right now what we're doing is we're sitting at 24.4 miles per gallon. We're actually averaging over 1 mile per gallon better than normal mode using eco mode here. Get you guys a shot here. There we go, 24.5. So now we're going back, sitting at 60 miles per hour. That's the speed limit. And we're gonna see what we can get round trip now. All right, we're bumping up to 70, and in just turning around and kind of getting back up to the highway here, we've dropped down to 23.5 miles per gallon. So we're averaging, right, or that's the average number. So we'll see if we can come back up from that and see if we can get back to the 24.7 that we saw before I turned around. All right, so we just entered the San Antonio city limit, and right now we're averaging at 23.3 miles per gallon. So I think the way back is a incline in elevation, very slight, and that's why we're kind of having a hard time trying to get back to that 24 average MPG that we saw going to Castroville, Texas. All right, so we're getting near our exit here, and we're sitting right at 23.3 average miles per gallon. So pretty much right around the same point that we saw using normal mode on the way back. Get you guys here the shot. 23.5 is what we're getting as we're slowing down. So on the way to Castroville, we did see a significant improvement, and even getting there, we saw over a positive increase in miles per gallon, right? As we saw, I think the max that we saw before as we slowed down was 24.7. It's almost 25 miles per gallon. Whereas here, as we slow down, we're nearing 23.6 miles per gallon. So round trip, not very different. I'm gonna use the same pump to pump gas here. So overall, as we can see, the difference between using normal mode and eco mode wasn't that big of a difference when we compare the overall round trip, right? But I think what we can conclude here is that eco mode does appear to actually improve fuel economy. The biggest limitation though in this experiment is distance, as the amount traveled isn't even twice the amount of the average mile per gallon that we got, right? So to fairly assess normal versus eco mode, I think we would probably have to travel at least a couple hundred miles in terms of a highway setting, right? Travel at least a couple hundred miles to really assess whether eco mode is actually improving fuel economy significantly. It seems to improve it significantly slightly when you're traveling at about 70 miles per hour, and just depending on the elevation, right? Because going to Castroville, we were able to hit an average mile per gallon of 24 and positive, or 24 plus, much quicker than we did using normal mode. However, on the way back, the truck did struggle to get back to that 24 mile per gallon average, and it never did get back. And that's probably because we were going at a positive incline on the way back. So we can see traveling a distance with a positive incline, I guess it depends, right? I guess it depends. So on the way there, which is we were under a negative incline, it seems like, right? We were able to reach a higher average mile per gallon in eco mode much faster, and we even saw a better average mile per gallon. However, on the way back, we saw about the same comparing normal to eco mode. So I don't really know if eco mode will make that big of a difference overall, right? We'd have to, again, like I said, we'd have to travel a much larger distance to see whether eco mode will make that big of a difference, which actually it probably will, just because, as we can see, traveling a longer distance, we'll see a much greater change in elevation over time, right? We'll go up and down and up and down and up and down. It'll probably be that longer distance and time traveled that eco mode will actually make that significant difference of an average mile per gallon in a more positive direction, more significant, right? Versus this here, we only traveled about 30 miles and we got about the same results overall for the round trip. So again, to fairly assess this, we'd have to travel a much larger distance. But I think what we can conclude from this test is that eco mode does work, and it does actually impact your mile per gallon in a positive direction. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna fill up the truck again, and we're also gonna use how much we filled up. I'm at the same pump, by the way. We're gonna use how much we filled up by the distance we traveled to see how many miles per gallon we got. All right, guys, next day here. So now we're gonna test the difference between normal and eco mode average MPG here in the downtown area. I'm gonna go through a little course. We're gonna do it the same way. I'm going to go through the course.
Send me a picture.
Sorry about that. I'm gonna go through the course using normal mode, and then I'm gonna come back, fill up. We're gonna then go through the same course using eco mode, and we're gonna see if there's a difference. If there is a difference, what I'm going to do is then I'm gonna fill up again, and then I'm gonna switch back to normal mode and see if the difference is consistent between normal and eco mode. So let's go ahead and get started. I think I'm just gonna time lapse the course, and we'll come back and then we'll see the results. I'm gonna do the same thing again. I'm gonna leave it right now. We're in normal mode. I'm gonna go back to our trip/fuel. I'm gonna use trip number 2 here. I'm about to reset it, and then we're gonna go off on the course. So let's get to it. All right, so we're back now. We're back at the gas station. We're about to fill up again. Under normal mode, we were able to average an MPG of 14.3. We traveled a total distance of 3.5 miles. and we traveled for about 13 minutes. The clock is still going, so it's sitting at 14 now. Let me get a picture so you guys can check this out. So there you can see 14.3, 3.5 miles traveled, and time elapsed is about 13 minutes. We're gonna fill up and go under eco mode this time. All right, so we just filled up, the truck is on, so the MPG is already dropping. We're gonna go ahead and put it into eco mode now, just so you guys can see here. We're gonna put it into eco, and we're gonna reset, just after that goes away, and let's get moving. All right, so we're back at the gas station here. We were in eco mode. I turned off the truck, so it probably reset itself, just because I wanted to stop the truck from recording any data. But again, we see the same thing here. Hold on, I'll get the camera right now. 14.3 average miles per gallon, distance of 3.5 miles per hour. However, I think we did spend a little bit more time at stoplights, because the amount of time traveled this time was about 14 minutes as compared to the other time, which was I believe 13 minutes. So let me show you guys. Again, we're not going to see the eco mode logo because I turned off the truck to stop the data from recording, and the computer resets every time you turn it off. But you can see here the average is the same, 14.3 miles per gallon. Distance traveled 13.5, and the time elapsed again was about 14 minutes. It's already been about a minute because I've been sitting here. So I'm not going to make any conclusions yet. I'm going to go back and watch the videos and see the data again, and then also compare the data from when I took a picture of how much gas I put in between the trips, to kind of compare that value of the average MPG to the value of the average MPG that the truck has given us. So I'm going to do that first, and then I'll make my conclusions. But what I can say from driving eco mode in the city, because if we remember correctly, what I said is that the eco select mode that's in the quick reference guide of the Ford F-150 is that it said that there was a loss of comfort somewhere in there. Now, I didn't really notice any loss of comfort on the highway. I think the biggest difference that you can kind of tell when you're going to travel at higher speeds and you're going to have to get up to speed quicker is that you feel like you have to give a little bit more gas to get the throttle position, the throttle body position in the same place, if you will, using eco mode as compared to normal mode, if that makes sense, right? So essentially what I'm saying is that you have to put more, you have to press the gas pedal down further so that the throttle plate position is the same as you would, or if you would compare it to normal mode, right? I think that makes sense. I'm guessing that's how it works. But other than that, you couldn't really tell that much of a difference. Now, driving on in city driving, you couldn't really tell at all, right? Because I guess you accelerate a little bit slower. You don't get up to that high of a speed as compared to driving more on the highway and like the access roads and more, you know, non-city, I guess, type of roads, or downtown type of roads, if you will. You don't really notice that big of a difference in terms of having to give more input from the gas pedal, right? So, and also I did notice that you don't really notice any loss in comfort. If anything, it did feel a little bit more smooth to me, and it does feel like the transmission tries to get you to a higher gear much quicker, so it shifts a lot quicker. At some points it did feel that way. So that's kind of the best analysis that I could give for that. Because we didn't notice any difference in average MPG comparing normal to eco mode in driving here downtown, I'm not gonna go back and try to see if there's a difference again by switching back to normal mode. I don't think we'll see a difference, but I will, however, fill up the tank again and just see how much gas we wasted, and then also again compare that value with the distance traveled and see how it compares to the value of the average MPG that was given to us from the Ford truck. Okay, so if you've made it to this point in the video, I appreciate you guys for watching. I just want to touch on a couple of things before we end the video off. I'll try to make them quick because I know this video has been long-winded. So right off the bat, I guess, you know, I didn't buy an F-150 with the V8 in it to have a very impressive mile per gallon number. That's kind of besides the point of buying a truck and buying one that has a V8 in it, right? So the mile per gallon number isn't what's impressive, and it's not what I'm going to focus on. Rather, what I'm going to focus on is how much we filled up during normal mode and eco mode. So let's start off with the highway situation here. When I got back from driving under normal conditions, I filled up the tank and I filled up 1.770 gallons. And after I drove in eco conditions, I filled up with 1.503 gallons. So we see here that the amount that I filled up with in eco mode is about 15% less fuel than I did under normal conditions. But we have to make a couple of assumptions here, and the first one being the gas pump. I did use the same gas pump to fill up both times. However, we do have to assume that each time you fill up, it's going to be the same gas at the same pump, right? We have to assume that, and most likely it's not, but we just have to kind of assume that that is the case because it's such a small amount of fuel that we're filling in. But it did equate to about 15% less fuel to fill up the truck after we drove with eco conditions. So again, it doesn't matter what MPG we got. What matters here is that we ended up filling 15% less fuel round trip, because round trip we did get the same mile per gallon roughly comparing normal to eco mode. So it makes it seem like you really didn't save that much gas, but actually if those numbers are consistent over time and you are saving about 15% fuel using eco mode on the highway, that's going to equate to a lot of savings over time. Now let's go ahead and talk about the city driving situation. So under eco conditions, I filled up 0.558 gallons. Under normal conditions, I filled up with 0.470 gallons. So I actually filled up less fuel after I drove under normal conditions in the city. And it kind of makes sense, because if you think about it, it seems the way eco mode works best is under a stable-like environment. And what I mean by that is it seems like the best way to get the best mile per gallon would be on the highway. Why? Because you're not shifting gears as much, you're not accelerating or slowing down or any of that as much as you do on the city. In the city, you're constantly shifting gears, you're constantly stopping, you're constantly accelerating, you're constantly slowing down, you're constantly speeding up, right? There's a lot of change going on in the city versus on the highway. You're at a more consistent speed, you're at a more consistent RPM, and that allows the engine management system to hone in on the best parameters possible, so that way you can get the best mile per gallon possible, or the best fuel economy, right? So for my analysis here, it seems like the best way to get the best fuel economy out of the Ford F-150 would be to use eco mode on the highway, where the change in speed and RPM is going to be less, versus using it in the city, where the speed and the change in RPM is going to be much greater. And again, that does make sense to me, because when you drive in the city under eco mode, the truck does seem to struggle a little bit to kind of get up to speed. It seems a little bit more suppressed, like the truck is kind of making less power. So it only makes sense if the truck is making less power, if the truck is having trouble getting up to speed. I mean, not, you know, I say getting up to trouble like it's a really bad thing, but it's not that bad. It's just when you compare eco to normal, it seems like it struggles a little bit more to get up to the same speed that you would under normal. And when you switch it to normal in city driving, it seems like the truck does a lot better. So it does make sense that the truck would get better fuel economy on the highway versus in the city. So I'm gonna go ahead and end the video off here, because I know that it's been a long video and I don't wanna just keep rambling and going on and on and on and on. So if you've made it to this point in the video, I appreciate you guys watching. Please feel free to hit that like button, also subscribe. Let me know down in the comments if you've done your own analysis of the eco mode in this way and what results you got. Did you get the same result, or did you get completely different results? I'd like to hear about your experience down below, and also let me know if you guys think of anything that maybe I didn't consider during this analysis. I appreciate any feedback. Again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.